Good to have you with us on a Monday morning. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers, and we're going to begin our show, though, here at home with President Trump's ongoing fight with federal judges over his contentious mass deportation plan, with administration lawyers expected to be back in court today.
A three-judge panel will hear the case. Lawyers for the president will argue he has the power to continue deporting alleged Venezuelan gang members to a prison in El Salvador. It's a country many of the deportees have no ties to. On Sunday, the administration deported another group of Venezuelan migrants, including alleged gang members. But this time, the deportees were sent back home to Venezuela. The government there agreed to a deal to take in their citizens under threat of further U.S. sanctions. NBC News White House correspondent Aaron Gilchrist joins us now with the latest. Aaron, good morning. So Trump administration officials spent the weekend defending their deportation plans. What did we hear from them, and what can we expect from today's big hearing?
Well, first, I think you should expect that these deportations will continue. That has been the goal of the Trump administration. They've talked about the reality around wanting to make sure that continues to happen, as we saw this weekend. At the same time, this has been an administration that's been very critical of the federal judges that have been putting out rulings that have either shot down or paused some of the executive actions that President Trump has taken. He's called for the impeachment of one judge in particular, that is James Boasberg, the chief U.S. District Judge here in D.C., who's been overseeing this Alien Enemies Act case that the president invoked this act's authority in order to deport, they said, these gang members to El Salvador 2 weekends ago. I want you to hear how the Attorney General talked about this particular judge and this case making its way to the highest court in the land. Listen.
Oh, the Supreme Court will get involved. This is an out-of-control judge, a federal judge trying to control our entire foreign policy, and he cannot do it. He's trying to ask us about national security information, which he is absolutely not entitled to. We are appealing. We will be in court Monday. Again, we will win. We will prevail.
So DOJ lawyers are in court this morning to appeal this to the D.C. Circuit, appeals court here in D.C. We expect to hear arguments today in that case, but we do not expect to get a ruling from this three-judge panel today. That is expected to come possibly in the next coming days or possibly even weeks. And this would be a ruling on putting a stay on the original stay that the first judge in this case put in place. It's a little convoluted, Joe and Savannah, as you kind of go back and forth with all of these cases swirling around at the same time.
Yeah, Aaron, also, so in addition to judges, NBC News, we're also learning that the president's targeting lawyers or law firms that file lawsuits against his administration. What do we know there?
This was a memo that came out over the weekend, kind of quietly, that basically directs the Attorney General and the Homeland Security Secretary to take a look at lawyers and law firms that are filing suits against the administration. And if they deem those suits to be frivolous, that the Attorney General and Homeland Security Secretary should take some action to sanction these lawyers or law firms. There have, of course, been some concerns that in the part of this process where they would also review security clearances for some of these law firms, if they think the cases are unreasonable, that they would really have a chilling effect on the ability of lawyers in this country to challenge anything that the Trump administration may do or is currently doing, which some argue is part of the point here, to be able to pause some of the actions that these law firms are taking so that the president's mandate, as he calls it, can go forward without any legal challenges. The Trump administration has said that these actions are lawful and that these are things that the president has the authority and the power to do. Of course, Joe and Savannah, the concern also coming from comments made by Steve Bannon about these actions, where he basically said, this is someone who's been a real advocate of the president. He said that the president is going to put these law firms out of business.
Aaron, away from all these legal fights, there are mounting concerns and questions over the future of Social Security, and that's because of critical comments that Elon Musk has been making recently about the program. Republicans, how worried are they about this, given Musk's huge influence?
Yeah, we've heard Elon Musk refer to Social Security as a Ponzi scheme. He said that it is the big program in the federal government right now that needs to be eliminated. There are some Republicans who've said to the White House that they feel like Elon Musk is basically talking too much. He's too out there doing interviews. He's too unscripted talking about these things. One White House official told NBC News that they can understand some of the concerns that GOP members of Congress would have right now as it relates to the worries that senior citizens have about receiving their Social Security benefits. At the same time, officially, the White House is saying, Joe and Savannah, that anyone in this country who is receiving Social Security benefits will continue to receive those benefits, but they should expect that Elon Musk and his Doge team are going to continue within the Social Security Administration looking for, as the Trump administration has phrased it, waste, fraud, and abuse, but seem to be leaning into this notion that they do not intend to cut benefits, particularly for seniors in this country, Joe and Savannah.
All right, Aaron Gilchrist. Aaron, thank you.
Well, amid the president's ongoing battle with the judicial system over his broader deportation plan, judges have been weighing in on individual cases against immigrants brought by the Justice Department. NBC News senior Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley followed the case against one man that a federal judge in Virginia dismissed as, quote, petty.
The Trump administration telling NBC News they can and will continue to deport immigrants to this maximum security prison in El Salvador if they have final orders of deportation. So we're heading to a hearing for a man who could be impacted. He's being charged not in immigration court, but federal court, with only one crime: being in the country illegally.
It's really unusual for the Justice Department to be bringing a case like this. So we'll see what evidence the government presents against this Venezuelan man and if the judge decides to hand him over to ICE for deportation.
Tengo mucho miedo de que vuelva a Venezuela o sea trasladado a El Salvador o sea trasladado a otro país, siendo inocente.
We met Karina 3 days after her 32-year-old husband Alberto was arrested in front of their home on his way to work. She says at a local taco truck. We are not showing their faces or using her real name, as she is concerned about getting arrested herself.
No es un hombre que ha tenido ningún tipo de problema en este país.
When we spoke, Alberto was held by the U.S. Marshals, the law enforcement agency typically involved in highly dangerous fugitive operations. He crossed the border with his wife and 2 sons in 2022, claiming asylum from the Venezuelan state of Aragua, home of Tren de Aragua. Karina says he has no affiliation with the gang. After sending alleged gang members to El Salvador this weekend without providing evidence of their affiliation, Trump saying,
"This was a bad group."
So is Alberto the hardened criminal the administration says it is deporting? We head into federal court, where cameras are not allowed in, to find out. After about 20 minutes, we have some news.
The judge just ordered Alberto released from federal custody. He says he committed a petty offense, has no criminal history, no evidence of ties to gangs, and is applying for asylum. But still, ICE could now take him into custody.
While the Trump administration fights judges over presidential powers, individual cases like this present another hurdle for their deportation efforts.
Are you seeing more cases like this?
We are. There have been several that have been reported.
Is it part of a larger effort to prosecute more immigrants whose only crime is crossing the border? A spokesperson telling us this Department of Justice will enforce our nation's immigration laws. Alberto had to report back to federal court as a condition of his release. His lawyers were concerned he might still get picked up by ICE, detained, and even deported. But to their surprise, he walked out.
Muy feliz, de verdad.
Still a free man, as his family and a community live on edge.
Our thanks to Julia Ainsley for that report.
On Capitol Hill, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is defending himself against backlash from his fellow Democrats. Some of the party's top voices suggest it may be time for new leadership. They're upset that Senator Schumer cleared the way to avoid a government shutdown, that he supported a stopgap spending bill crafted by Republicans without any concessions from them. NBC News Meet the Press moderator Kristen Welker spoke with Senator Schumer yesterday about the fallout from his controversial votes.
Hello there, Joe and Savannah. This week on Meet the Press, I spoke to Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer about the calls he's facing from within his own party to step aside. Because of your decision, Leader Schumer, last week to clear the way to pass a Republican funding bill and avoid a government shutdown, you have faced calls from outside groups, even members of your own party, to step aside as minority leader. When asked about your future to town hall, Senator Michael Bennet said, quote, "It's important for people to know when it's time to go." Leader Schumer, are you feeling pressure to step down?
Look, I'm not stepping down. And let me just say this, Kristen. I knew when I cast my vote against against the government shutdown, that there'd be a lot of controversy, and there was. But let me tell you and your audience why I did it, why I felt it was so important. The CR was certainly bad, you know, the continuing resolution, but a shutdown would be 15 or 20 times worse. Under a shutdown, the executive branch has sole power to determine what is, quote, essential. It was a vote of principle. You know, sometimes when you're a leader, you have to do things to avoid a real danger that might come down the curve. And I did it out of pure conviction as to what a leader should do and what the right thing for America and my party was.
You can see my full interview and a lot more at meetthepress.com. You can also get more Meet the Press here on NBC News Now every weekday at 4 p.m.
All right, Kristen, thank you.
For more on all this, let's bring in NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Julie Circa. Julie, good morning. So what are Democrats saying, and how real is this threat to Chuck Schumer?
Yeah, hey guys, good morning. Well, Schumer obviously defiant, saying that he will not go anywhere. And obviously Democrats, not only in activist outside groups, but also in Capitol Hill itself, are frustrated by his decision making or lack thereof, his strategy or lack thereof in that last government funding fight. We did hear from Democrats as they were home for recess last week. I spoke to one myself, Andy Kim in New Jersey. He held a town hall. I asked him what he thinks about Leader Schumer's leadership, whether he thinks he should stay. And he told me that he so far does not believe that any leader should step down. It is up to all Democrats to fight, he told me. But that's not what we're hearing from other Democrats as well, who do think they have a bigger problem on their hands. Here's Ro Khanna of California.
My biggest problem and disagreement with Senator Schumer in the New York Times, he said, you know, we did everything right. We just have a PR problem. No, we didn't do everything right. It's not just a PR problem. People are upset with the status quo, and we need a new generation of leadership.
You heard all of that dramatic town hall sound, right, over the recess. I can tell you I heard myself from about 400, 500 people who were gathered to hear from Senator Kim in New Jersey. He was in a Republican district, but still many there came to ask him what Democrats are doing to fight harder in Washington. They'll have a lot to fight for, certainly, when they get back later today and Republicans push ahead on their reconciliation plan, guys.
Yeah, and that's the key, Julie. Congress back in session today. Republicans in the House now just have 3 weeks left to try and pass their budget to fund President Trump's multi-trillion-dollar agenda in one big bill, as the president wants. And they're trying to do this through what's known as the reconciliation process that would allow them to bypass a possible Senate filibuster. Put simply, they don't need to have 60 votes. Still, what are some of the biggest hurdles they face with this?
Oh, my gosh, this is such an uphill battle for Republicans. And obviously, Democrats are going to try to push the brakes and try to stop their agenda as much as possible. But there's not much they can do if Republicans are trying to move forward with their plans on a party line vote. There's that one bill, two bill debate you keep talking about and you keep hearing about. Senate Republicans, I know, have been meeting and huddling in small groups over the last few weeks after the Senate passed its version of that budget. House leadership and House Republicans doing the same in the lower chamber. The question is, can both sides get together and get a compromise product that makes sense in time? Speaker Mike Johnson very ambitiously still pushing ahead for a timeline before Memorial Day, trying to get all of these pieces funded. That includes, of course, Trump's mass deportation plans. It includes those tax cuts that he wants to extend from 2017, the military, energy, so many priorities and campaign promises, frankly, that he made that he now wants Republicans in Congress to make good on. It'll certainly be a challenge to get every Republican on the same page and get all of them together without needing any Democrats.
Julie, I also want to ask you about something. We did touch on this a little bit earlier with Aaron, but now from the congressional perspective here. So Democrats have been warning that the Trump administration seems like they're eyeing cuts to programs like Social Security. We've heard President Trump say that he won't touch it, but on Meet the Press Sunday, Republican Senator John Curtis of Utah suggested that that's just not true. Let's listen to a little.
We're not being honest when we look people in the eye and say we're not going to touch it. If we don't touch it, it touches itself. You know that, right? That's not being honest with the American people. And I think that's one of the things that makes them not trust us, when we say something that they just know is not true.
Now, Senator Curtis said he plans to unveil a proposal to change Social Security a couple months from now. What are the changes that are being considered and who would they impact?
Well, there's two things. There are bipartisan efforts, and there have been, to save Medicare, to save Social Security, rather, to make sure that it remains solvent, because currently it's going to run out of money in the last decade at some point. And this is something that members of Congress take seriously. The problem is it is not a popular issue. It is not popular to tell the electorate, hey, we're going to have to reform some of these benefits or the way it works, which is why we've never seen, or in the last 5 years or so, when Republicans and Democrats have made this push, we have not seen it actually turn into anything that passed or went on the floor, just because it's so unpopular to even talk about this. Now, of course, you have Doge and Elon Musk who are saying on their own that they're going to touch some of these benefits. Musk made some comments about the Social Security program that certain officials in the White House, members on Capitol Hill, did not want him to make and talk about in that way. But you're going to see different efforts, right? You did hear from Republicans. I heard from Republicans over the last couple of weeks who acknowledged, hey, in order to get those deficit cuts, in order to get the impacts to the deficit that we need, we're going to have to cut around the edges, cut around the fat of these entitlement programs. In the Social Security's case, we've already seen Elon Musk and Doge try to make some reforms. For example, seniors can't go online to make certain changes to their addresses, other things that they're eyeing to do that certainly could not be popular. But members of Congress want to try to save this program. The question is, will they be able to do it in a way that garners enough votes for it to pass? Guys.
All right, Julie Sirkin, thank you.
Former Utah Congresswoman Mia Love died on Sunday. She was the first ever black Republican woman elected to Congress. Love died at her home in Saratoga Springs, Utah, after battling brain cancer. She was just 49 years old. Her daughter revealed earlier this month that she was no longer responding to her treatments.
The daughter of Haitian immigrants, Love's political career began when she won a seat on Saratoga Springs City Council back in 2003. She then lost a bid for the House in 2012 against Democratic incumbent Congressman Jim Matheson. 2 years later, she ran again in the district that covers the Salt Lake City suburbs and won. At the time, Love said her win defied the naysayers who suggested that a black Republican Mormon woman couldn't win a congressional seat in the overwhelmingly white state of Utah. Well, the race to contain wildfires burning up and down the East Coast goes on this morning from New Jersey to the Carolinas. In South Carolina, the Table Rock fire has grown to over 1,300 acres. That was by last night. While in North Carolina, multiple fires forced evacuations in the western foothills.
We are seeing fires in all sorts of unexpected places. Tinder dry conditions fueled a wildfire in southern New Jersey. It has scorched more than 2,000 acres, but firefighters are now getting the upper hand. That fire now 80% contained. NBC News correspondent Kathy Park has the latest from South Carolina.
Good morning. The rain is starting to fall in the area, which is certainly some welcome news because the Table Rock fire is still burning. It started on Friday. It has jumped to more than 1,000 acres with no containment. But crews have been working tirelessly through the weekend trying to get an upper hand. But since conditions have been so dry, any shift in the winds can actually fan these flames. Meanwhile, in neighboring North Carolina, we are tracking 3 active wildfires. There are mandatory evacuation orders in place for the western portion of the state. And meanwhile, farther up north in southern New Jersey, the Wharton State Forest Park, that fire there has been mostly contained, but not after scorching more than 2,300 acres. But back here in the Carolinas, once again, the rain is starting to fall, which is certainly going to help with the firefight. But officials are saying that another challenge is actually dealing with the debris and downed trees from Hurricane Helene 6 months ago. It's actually fueling some of these flames. Back to you.
All right, Kathy Park, thank you so much.
Let's get a check on the forecast now in places battling those fires and more with your Morning News Now weather.
Michelle Grossman is with us today. Hey, Michelle, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Great to see you. And as Kathy mentioned, we do have some rain moving through the east, so that is good news. But this will be a problem for months to come because so many spots are dry. Now, we're talking about a large storm system that's moving through the east. It's bringing some wintry weather in the spring. It's bringing some winter, a mix of snow and rain. It's bringing plain rain. It's also bringing some storms. Let's start with the cold side. We do have winter alerts for 4 million people throughout the Great Lakes into the Northeast, parts of New England as well. And it's going to linger longest in parts of New England. We're looking at winter weather advisories. That's where you're seeing the white, and the pink is a winter storm warning. This is what the storm looks like. Where you see the blue, that is where the snow is falling. You're seeing a little pink mixing in at times. That is a wintry mix, and we're going to see that from time to time throughout this morning. But notice all that rain along the Gulf Coast into the southeast, luckily moving into South Carolina. We're looking at heavy rain in some spots where you see those brighter colors, even seeing some lightning, hearing some thunder, and that will be the story as we go throughout the next couple of hours. So we do have a marginal risk for severe storms. That includes winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour. Could see some hail. It's not likely, but it's low, but it's not zero. So we're going to keep that in mind. Also looking at the chance of a brief tornado from Lake Charles to New Orleans, Pensacola, and also Albany, Georgia. So there goes that cold front, and it goes throughout the day. It's going to take its time moving through. So we will see that rain lingering on this Monday. We'll finally move into the Atlantic. But notice in northern New England later on tonight into tomorrow morning, that's where we could see the snow lingering just a little bit longer there. So we'll see the accumulations a little bit higher. Where you see the pinks and purples, that's where we're expecting the highest amounts of rain. That's throughout the state of Maine, so Caribou to Greenville, Bangor. Also, Portland could see some snow as well. Now, we're talking about that as the big story today, but also looking at the chance for record highs. We are looking at a big area of high pressure just pumping in really warm air. So while we're talking about wintry weather in the Northeast, we're talking about summer-like temperatures in the Southwest, temperatures into the 90s in some spots. And we're looking at temperatures 10, 20, 30 degrees above what is typical for this time of year. And we will break some records. Where you see these red little dots with the cities, that's where we could see potential record highs. And this was not only today, but Tuesday and also Wednesday. There's that high pressure, the jet stream so far to the north, allowing this warm air in. And look at these temperatures. We're looking at temperatures 13 degrees above normal in Sacramento, 80 degrees, 90 degrees in Tucson. You need the shorts there, 89 in Del Rio, 81 degrees in Dallas. And as we go throughout Tuesday, we'll watch this warmth expanding down to portions of the southeast. So now Atlanta, we're almost 10 degrees above normal, into the 70s and into the low 80s, guys, in Little Rock, 87 in Lubbock. Look at Tucson tomorrow, 96 degrees.
Wow. Summer map there, my goodness.
Oh, wow. Lots of red. Thanks, Michelle. Well, there are new developments this morning in Friday's deadly mass shooting at a New Mexico park. Police have now arrested a fourth suspect. Authorities say a 15-year-old boy was taken into custody Sunday, joining 3 others who were already under arrest. All 4 now face multiple murder charges in the shooting that left 3 dead and 15 injured at a late-night car meetup. NBC's Camila Bernal has the latest on the ongoing investigation.
3 teens killed in the chaos when an unsanctioned car show in Las Cruces, New Mexico, ended in gunfire Friday night.
Run, run, run! Go to my truck! Go to my truck!
A fight between 2 groups escalating, people running for their lives. Police announcing the arrest of 3 juveniles and 20-year-old Tomas Rivas.
How did you track down these suspects?
I have to give kudos to my team. They did a phenomenal job, especially with how complicated the scene was in this investigation, all the moving parts. They were able to take witness statements along with some video that we either got on scene or was provided by the community.
Meanwhile, a community mourning the tragic loss of 3 teenagers. 16-year-old Andrew Madrid loved playing baseball. 18-year-old Jason Gomez seen here in this family video. And 19-year-old Dominic Estrada went to the church led by Pastor Carlos Ivan Alvarez.
It has been a devastating weekend for our community.
Right now, it's time to bring strength and comfort to hurting people.
A community now grappling with how to move forward after this senseless act. Camila Bernal, NBC News.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.